of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
To begin, I would like to start the discussion from each of our panelists here today on the G20 presidency of India and the values and the value it has to add to India for its overall development. So we can begin with Samir ji, some opening remarks from you.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Namrata madam, Nidhi madam, for inviting us. And whatever work I have done on tribals, thank you for giving me opportunity to speak this in front of you, these initiatives and these lifestyles. Mainly the tribals are also very important here actually. So this is a very good opportunity for me and also for all of you to know what exactly the tribals are going through and how we are helping them and how technology is helping them. Right, madam. So should I start the presentation, madam, now?
To the panelists and then we. Yes? Yeah. So, Dr. Ruchi, would you like to put in some opening remarks?
Hi, hello. So thank you so much for inviting me to this panel. I already feel very humble about this. And I'm absolutely excited about what India is doing at G20. The theme that we have put in about Kutumbakam is something that the whole world should be learning from and aspiring. And I think this is very unique because we're not just thinking about our country anymore. We're thinking about how the whole world comes together in sustainability. So I'm really looking forward to be sharing about what we have been doing last few years. And we as a team, how can we do further? So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Shardul?
Am I audible? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, the question about G20 is we as a team look forward to what our country has to offer with this new responsibility that we share with the world. With that, we've always been working as a team in small ways that we can, and I'm sure the other panelists also have been doing that. And let's hope we all together, small initiatives build and help G20 in some way that as a country we can develop from a bottoms-up approach rather than a top-down one. That's what I would like to say.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. So moving forward, Indian philosophical tradition recognizes of individualism as well as culturalism, which bridges the essential spirit behind this or selfless service. It represents a democratic participation working together. Driven by a sense of duty and indebtedness to the society. In that sense, this consciousness is in fact beyond government, as each individual develops a personal responsibility for ensuring national as well as global well-being. With this context setting, we would now like to have all the speakers share a success story on the role of their organization to combat climate change and bring about community resilience through grassroots innovations and the use of technology. Panelists can share their presentations, followed by Ruchi and then Shardul. Yes, Samir sir. Nidhi, if you can share the presentation.
Yeah, Nidhi madam can share it. I'll just say next, so you can take it to next one. How much time, madam? I have, I think, 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, 15
minutes. If you can stick to that.
Yeah, I'll stick to 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We are Maharashtra Knowledge Corporation Limited. We have done. In fact, we started our operations in 2002, and till now you must be knowing MSCIT, Maharashtra State Certificate in Information Technology, and 1.5 crore learners are registered for that. But more importantly, we have taken a lot of initiatives in sustainability. One of the very important thing which we have done, the software which we have developed is for Vanamitra, that is for tribals. Next slide. Nidhi madam, next slide. Yeah, our main mission is last person first. How we are going to support the last person, say from the villages, from the tribal areas, with best of the technologies. That is our mission. Next. Some of the videos are there. I'll skip those videos. Yeah, this is the Forest Right Act. Since 1927, tribals are not allowed to enter forest because these forests are owned by government. That is what Britishers had done. That act came in 1927, and tribals were not allowed to enter into forest. The main important thing is there is a balance that tribals actually maintain the forest, and they actually take out the forest produce from there. They can sell it in the market, and because of they are living based on those forest produce. And then they were not allowed to go there. But in 2005, 2006, Forest Right Act was passed, and individual forest right, next slide, individual forest right, right and community forest rights were given. So we came to know this, and we have developed this software, MKCL's Vanamitra, which helps all tribals to get these rights which are given by our parliament, that is through Forest Right Act 2006. Next. There are community forest right. That means whole village gets the right of the forest, and individual means some areas they call them as pattas. They are given to individuals by government. Next. We went to Mendalika. Mendalika is the first village in India which got Forest Right Act. Through Forest Right Act, they got the right, community forest right, and through this, through forest produce, the bamboos and all, they were earning 1 crore per year. Now they are earning 3 crore rupees per year. And then they said कि in Delhi and Mumbai, कि Delhi Mumbai में हमारा सरकार, लेकिन हमारी गांव में हम ही सरकार. So they say we don't want any support, any welfare schemes, because we are actually through this forest produce, we are earning 3 crore rupees. So if each village becomes sustainable like this, and it is going to protect the forest, it is not going to harm the forest. So it is important that such rights should be given. But the problem was there was no proper processes. They were not knowing about how to process these applications. So we came out with the software, which has actually, we implemented this in Madhya Pradesh, and something around 35,000 rights are given to individuals there. Next slide. This is a small video.
One of the key demands of the Adivasi farmers who marched to Mumbai on 12th March was the transfer of ownership of forest land under the Forest Rights Act of 2006.
Managing director called us and said, for these people, you can do something, you can develop.
It's also called the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Act. But why is this act important? India has more than 100 million tribals spread across its states and union territories, accounting for 8.4% of the total population. But before the 2006 Act, and since the colonial era, their rights as the original inhabitants of forest lands were set aside, and the Forest Department continued to harass them in the form of torture, extortion, and eviction. The blame for that goes to the Indian Forest Act of 1927, which, instead of conserving forests, transferred the ownership of forest land to the British and then to the Indian state for the
Actually,
exploitation of
whatever I have
timber
told
and
you
other
here,
resources.
Sir,
Even areas that
yeah,
did not
Nidhi madam,
technically
can you
qualify as
skip
forest
this?
was brought under its ambit.
Next slide. Correct. Yeah, next. So we developed this software. Next one. Next. Next. Skip this video also. Next. Then we went to Darachinsora. That is a village from Nandurbar. We studied the entire how the forest rights are given to individuals and how the community forest rights are given to individuals. Next. We met so many forest right coordinators from Maharashtra. 135 people we met, and we developed this software. Next. So many experts helped us. Next. Even we met that time ex-CM of Maharashtra with Dr. Anil Kakodkar sir, and actually he supported us wholly that yes, such kind of software does not exist in India, so you must develop it. Next. Indian Express also gave this news that such kind of software is getting developed, and which is the best thing. Next. 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 And then MP government called us and they implemented this software in Madhya Pradesh. Next. Also in Chhattisgarh, we implemented same software and 6.9 lakh claims were registered through our software. This is the biggest achievement I feel. In Madhya Pradesh, around 5 lakh claims were registered, and in Chhattisgarh, 6.9 lakhs claims were registered. Next. So this is an end-to-end software. Next. We got the rights also, copyright also. Next. The very important part I wanted to show, we can skip these slides and video we can see next video. Yeah, now. So what we have done, the very important thing what we have done is through our regular mobile smartphone, now they can draw a polygon of the they can walk around the periphery of the area and map the area on the mobile, and then we superimpose that on INSAT 1B maps of government, and also we use Bhuvan instead of Google Map. Next. You can see this video. This is an app where Vanamitra survey app is there, and till now around 5 lakh people have used this app in Madhya Pradesh. To actually start the application, first thing they have to do is to map it. So they have to select the claim number, and after that they can start it gets synced with the server, and then they can start mapping. They can select the claim. See, there are 2-3 areas where they can claim, and one of them they can select. This is the most important innovation we have done in this software. Yes. Now, across the periphery, once he starts walking, it will start mapping that, and exact area is mapped. It is superimposed, and we are showing through INSAT 1B pictures of year 2006. We are showing whether at that time there was a forest or they were doing agriculture there. Based on this, they can give the rights. So this is the important innovation we have done. Can you just forward this little bit? Yeah. Previous one. Previous. Now you can see here. Previous. Next. Wherever those maps are shown. Correct. Next one. Yes, this one. So here actually 2005 map INSAT 1B, 2008 image, and present Bhuvan image. These three images are shown, and even cross section or superimposing these two, we can see whether in 2005 agriculture was there or forest was there. So that we can see here, and based on this actually, in Nasik, something around 15,000 claims are not approved just because of this question. So that is why we developed this, and this has helped MP government to approve the claims. Next. And we use GIS also, complete GIS, to show where which area, from where how many claims have been are there. Next slide. Yeah, you can see this, how the applications are made, in which areas of MP. Next one. Next. This kind of certificate we have given. This is a computer generated certificate with barcode, and also with correct lat long we have mapped the image on the certificate. This has helped later on to get Sadbara for those tribals, and this has helped those people a lot. So I think my time is over. I will stop here, but this is the biggest innovation we wanted to show. There are a lot of more slides are there, but I think I will skip and I'll stop here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nidhi madam and Namrata madam, for allowing me to speak. And this is the entire process is shown, how they the claim is settled and how they apply online and how it is processed at each place. Some processes are online, some. Yeah. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Ruchi, can we now move on to you? If you can share your screen.
Sharing is disabled at my end.
Nidhi.
I hope you can see. So hello everyone, I'm Ruchi Saxena. I'm the founder director of an organization called Robotics. I'll be talking to you about how we try to use the drones for development purposes, but how did we create an ecosystem around it? And this ecosystem was at the level of the country as well as the rest of the world as well. Now, talking about what India is aiming for in this G20 is that we need to conduct a lot of pro-planet activities and have an inclusive way of engaging with technologies, with emerging technologies, so that the technologies are able to actually make a difference where the climate change is concerned, or where habitat monitoring is concerned, or by making the ecosystems way more safer when the climate emergencies happen. So when we started our journey, we had this concern as well. When we used to travel, we used to see that people are living too far away, and especially in the zones which are highly vulnerable to climate emergencies like cyclones and floods, we realized that the access to technologies in these places was way limited. we knew that drones probably can play a role in identifying structures which are damaged due to cyclones or due to floods, or to maybe have a search and rescue done. But the access to drone technology was very rare, in the sense that the people who were owning the drones or flying the drones were mostly in the metro cities, and there was hardly any team present in these areas. So what used to happen is that the response that we were trying to provide would take weeks sometimes, and that would not really solve the purpose. So we wanted to change the game and do it in a way so that we can enable the local teams to understand what drone technology is, to understand how data is used and managed, and then try to use it for their own communities. So this is the kind of transformation, the technological transformation that we were looking at, the technology transfer, the knowledge transfer, and enabling of the local teams through participatory engagement with the communities is what we were trying to target. So this was the first thing that we did. This was somewhere in Dahanu in Maharashtra. And we tried to work with the youth of the tribal village there to understand how they interact with a drone technology and will they be able to understand or use this technology when we try to bring in to their village. And incidentally, this is the kind of workshop we conducted. But immediately after that, 3 or 4 days after that, there was a kind of minor earthquake there. And this was never covered in the news as well. But because they knew that a technology like this existed, they were able to work with the local government and then do a mapping of their village and try to see where are the vulnerable structures, where in the future any evacuation can be done if this would have been a major earthquake later. So if you see, drone technology today is probably playing a role in almost every sustainable development goal. And there is hardly any awareness about this technology. Rather, there is a fear and a phobia of drones being used for warfare. We wanted to remove that phobia and say that the drone and the technology of data could be used for something way nicer. So we started creating knowledge programs around most of the areas, and we created collaborations with manufacturers, service providers, with governments, with think tanks, and we tried to highlight the case studies of these applications so that the youth can learn about them and then they can go forward and start leading and aspiring for a career in drones as well. If you currently see what the drones are being used for, they're mostly used for photogrammetry, but the applications that we are trying to promote are way more, what do you say, there's like a blue ocean there, which are largely untapped, but there's a huge potential of impact as well. So talking about public health, talking about disaster management, agriculture, just preparedness for the future emergencies. And even as an education tool for STEM, drones have a great application there as well. So this is what we did. We created a global alliance on drones in development, which presently has more than 3,000 members across the world. And through this alliance, we created programs such as International Conference on Drones in Development and Advanced Course in Drones in Development. We created drones and data in disasters. So these are the education programs that we try to deliver across the country, especially in the zones that are most vulnerable. We created something called UAV Task Force, which was a network of the drone service providers across the country. And this really helped in responding to disasters in time. Especially in the flood season of 2019, where there were simultaneously floods happening across the country. The teams in 12 different states were able to get active and collaborate with the government because they exactly knew the protocols of how it's supposed to be done, and then respond to the floods by providing the drone images and videos to the authorities. Project Wings is something that we're doing for education, and Drones for Daughters is basically targeted at creating a gender balance in the drone industry. Planet Mappers is an ongoing, upcoming project, I would say, wherein we're creating a collaboration of geospatial experts across the world so that they can volunteer their time and efforts whenever a crisis situation happens across the world. This is what we did in Telangana, where we participated in the drone trials along with Saga Defense Engineering and ABANCO, to say that this is how vaccines can be delivered. Now, why this is important is because we really cannot expect people living in remote places to come and start living in the cities just because healthcare facilities are there. We should rather take the healthcare closer to the people where they exist. And drones can be very effective in doing that because roads are not always dependable. You cannot always have drones cutting through the forests and through the mountains, but drones can easily bridge in the gap. And this is one application that we are absolutely trying to promote. I also want to talk to you about how community can be engaged in participatory mapping activities. Now, this is an example from the earthquake which happened in 2015 in Nepal. And the drone images were used to create apparent maps, and community was engaged in marking these maps, and they were able to identify which are the structures which need more priority in rebuilding and restructuring efforts. So drone images or the images that are created because of through the geospatial mapping are extremely useful too, because it gives a bird's eye view for the people, and they get interested in what you're trying to do. They also understand that okay, there is something called geospatial data which they have an ownership on, and then if we give them enough awareness, they also start questioning about what are the ethics around it, and how do we own it, how do we participate in it, or how do we get a share of whatever you're creating. So it's important even ethically to have these principles in place before we even engage with the community. We've been creating school programs. This is an ongoing thing, and we're doing it with Maps and robotics. And this really helps. These are the students from a tribal village, but they were able to understand how drones fly and able to challenge themselves. Why this is important? Because in the future, if you expect them to be leading their villages in these kind of projects, they need to be understanding the technology as well. It's just like learning computers. So what computers were in the 90s, drones are going to be the future as well. So it's very important that we bring this education to the schools and colleges, and we engage with the youth from the most vulnerable populations to lead this in the future. Now, this is something that we have done, some of the projects that we have done and how we have engaged. There are places from Nagaland, from Odisha, and even in the remote places of Maharashtra and Kolhapur where the drones were used. And all the youth that we engaged were the local youth from these places. They were trained and inducted into how do you conduct drone projects in disaster situations, and this is how they were able to take forward. So the main challenges that we still face is having an access to these technologies in the remote places, because it becomes a challenge to travel with the drones to different places, especially during crisis, because flights are closed, trains are often closed. So it's important that we create this network and we empower this network by creating connections, by preparing before the disasters happen with all the documentation and all the understandings that needs to be done. Making the drones affordable is one important challenge because they are still very expensive. And we are hoping that as and how the demand increases and the manufacturing scales up within India, imports are lessened, and Atmanirbharta is what we are really aiming for, so that the most of the manufacturing happens within the country and we're less dependent upon expensive imported drones. The quality of the products is again, we are hoping that the manufacturers step up in the quality that they provide, and the drones that are made in India are also up to the mark as per what we expect from an American or a European drone company. Education and training, of course, that's lacking, but it's picking up as well. We expect to have at least 500,000 drone pilots across the country over the next 10 years, and a lot of effort is required across the country by different partners to make that happen. But even more important than that is making the citizens aware about their rights to privacy and safety, because if the drone projects happen, but the citizens are not engaged about why is it exactly happening, it would create an environment of mistrust. And that's not going to be sustainable in the long run for drone projects in whichever area that you talk about. So just because you have a drone, you can fly, it should not be the norm. Community has to be engaged and made sensitized about their rights. A proper consent has to be taken, because only then it will be ethical. Otherwise, it's just like pushing another technology down the throat of the people. And most important, but last not the least, the gender balance, because still we see unmanned is the name for drones. We want to call it uncrewed because we want more and more women to be taking part in it. And we really hope that happens because, yeah, it's not a big deal. Everybody can fly a drone. So these are the few things that I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ruchi. Yes, Shardul, can we now have you present?
Yes, I would request if my presentation is shared. Is that possible?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Shardul. I am the co-founder of Design Jatra Architects. I am really taken aback by the initial two presenters. The work is phenomenal and illustrious. As compared to that, what I'll be presenting is a story of a very small village that we are working with. Please go next. So this village is basically located in the Palghar district of Maharashtra. It's a tribal village, Section 5, Schedule 5 tribal area. And one of our partners of the organization is native from this village. I am from a slightly southern village from here, but I'm from the same district. And after our graduation, we sort of we'll go back to the same slide. After our graduation, we sort of decided to be with this village and try and see whether, as architects, we can help it. As people, we can help it because we associated with the village. We had links over there. We could talk the same language. Next. So we began this journey of documenting what's happening in the village and understanding the village first, because I at least was born and brought up in the city and then moved to the village. My friend was born in the village, but he grew up in the city kind of, and the other partner is a city person and she now works with this village. One very good example which kind of signifies what we knew about the village through this documentation is this. So there was this guy who was getting his daughter married, and you see this image where there is a wedding happening, and I just happened to ask, how much money is going in that wedding. And to my surprise, I was also planning my wedding back then, and the disparity was huge. He was going to get his daughter married in a mere 12,000 rupees. So how? I was very curious to ask. So he said, Didi, can you click once? So he just keep clicking. So he basically slowly revealed that how, in the past his neighbor he had helped his neighbor to get chicken in his son's wedding, some other person to help him decorate. He had also helped some other person in the village to serve in the wedding, and the entire village was now helping him. So he had to bear no cost for labor in the village, no cost for decoration, no cost for food. Everything was being supported by this village. We were all taken aback by this whole phenomenon, which is like a gift economy, which was happening in the village for people who were educated in the city. This was a very new thing. We realized the most important resource that these people have is not wood, not soil, not stone, but this feeling of community. Can you just click once or twice? Yeah, so this whole village was kind of getting this wedding happen, arranging this for this wedding. Entire village was engaged, and this was a revelation for us. Like, this is the resource that we wanted to conserve, and through this resource, the community resilience that we are talking about, the resource of the place, the resource of forest, all of this could be protected. Next. So everybody in the village used to at least come together and participate in everything that were happening. Next. So similarly, we started to see and try and engage with the youth as much as possible with ideas of what can be done in the village and how we can help them grow, and how participatory practices can help them grow. We being architects, we are good at making plans, drawings, models, maps, and hence that was our mode of communication. So we started ideating a lot of things. Next. Again, so we realized after some point that we needed to do some fun activities also in the village where we could get them together to share information. Like, a lot of data we couldn't get through because the context was huge, and the language through which these guys communicate is very different than our technical language. So we started drawing these participatory maps to know how much farm we have, what kind of resource we have, how many people in the village, all of that. So to get like a wholesome understanding of not just the resource but also the community of the village. Right? So this led us to form like groups of young people. These are called self-help groups. And through self-help groups, we started initiating a lot of activities slowly in the village. These are very micro activities, but they made a lot of impact in the young's mind in terms of generation of trust and like this give and take relationship that we and them have in the village that we have right now. So, for example, we were redoing this temple. Again, it's a very interesting story. Tribal temples in our region are redone after every 5 years. It is a way of the community to teach the young people, and the temples are always done in the traditional technology. So, it is a way of training the young to build a temple. Every 5 years, they would call all the young people in the village, all the young people come and redo the temple. But we wanted this time to do something new. We wanted them to actually take off all the artificial cement and use natural materials to redo the temple. Interestingly, the old were not in favor, but the young really wanted their old traditional knowledge to be taken ahead, and they wanted this temple to be redone in the traditional way. So that's what we did. Next. We got into, like sir mentioned, Forest Right Act. We got into getting, with the help of BIF, getting back their traditional seeds of rice. Majorly rice is grown in this village, into their practice, and we are still running these initiatives as much as possible, and they're growing over time. Next. Then we realized, because these are tribals, the biggest problem that our community had, apart from degradation of the community, is the degradation of the forest. And how can we get into this realm without destroying the forest, without them establishing practice of sustainable extraction, whereas sustainable conservation of the forest. So we had this intensive set of documentation visits to their forest and see where we can intervene in the forest. Next. So what we realized was there is a lot of biodiversity in the place, and our communities were using this biodiversity, and hence it was a very valued possession to them. And the knowledge about biodiversity translated into their livelihood. So, which is not the case now with the young people over here who generally migrate to the nearby cities to work. They don't really know much about the biodiversity like the old people did. And this is what we tried to change over here by establishing an initiative called Toker. So if the image that you see on the screen is basically a fishing net, a fishing trap that is made out of the local bamboo and palm leaves of the region. Next. Taking inspiration. So basically, with the advent of nylon fishing nets, this kind of art is dying out. And taking inspiration from that art, we made several utilitarian products out of this art and are selling them on Instagram and other platforms. And this is what is getting employment to some of our young people from the self-help groups. And this is not happening as a central activity. There is no one workshop where it happens. It is happening in each and everyone's homes. And slowly, these few young people are getting trained to manage. They themselves manage the production, the accounting. They also manage the quality checks of the product. They also handle design sometimes. So we just have to do the marketing and selling of it. Even the money that comes directly is managed by them. So each and every veranda in the village, you can see something or the other happening where they are doing these kind of activities. Next. This is Mohan. He is the one who manages everything. He and that is his wife. So both of them are holding our Rakhi stock. Next. These are just two of the many products that these guys make. The idea is to use local bamboo, local palm leaves, local craft, and people from the local village so that they start planting. And that's what they are now doing. They are looking at plots where they can plant this biodiversity so that it grows, like not just one species, but many other species. We are also looking at now engaging into natural dyeing and natural products from other biodiverse species, for example, mohua, so that more and more value is given to biodiversity related livelihood options. Next. It's tough. Yeah. So through this, we developed like a group of people who now we can gel with, merge with together. That's Pratik in the center of this meeting. And every day people would come together in the village square and talk about problems. And like I started with, the biggest problem is destruction of community. And now that we had a community, we realized that biggest problem is a government which does not probably uh, uh, realize that community. So a lot of times the on ground staff, the gram sevak, would not respond to our request. And so there are in the framework of our government, there are acts like Forest Right Act, RTI, all these acts which these people are unaware of. So as a firm, as a organization, we started making these guys and their families aware about their own rights, right of the Gram Sabha. Like for example, the Gram Sabha here initially would be held just so that the officials could say that they are doing this. It was not what it's supposed to be in the Panchayati Raj system, where it's like a decision-making body. So slowly, we started with these uh, uh, acts and their better implementation. Next. So now the Gram Sabha in the village is very much aware. There are no fights. There are absolutely no aggressions. We try to hold the Gram Sabha with an idea of taking decisions as a community. So, and we now hope to spread this to other villages. The reason why we focused on one particular village is because we were new. We didn't know the on ground realities of places like this because we were educated from a city. So now that we do know and what strength a Gram Sabha has in terms of livelihood generation, in terms of resource regeneration, all of that, this is the key thing that we can take ahead throughout our district is what we feel. Right? And then a lot of avenues opened up. Like this is for a lot of years, people would complain that road to the village is bad. There were a lot of accidents. There was a case where there was a pregnant lady. She couldn't reach to the hospital in time. Everyone had this anger, but nobody knew where to channelize it and how to channelize it, being in the framework of the government and not doing something violent. So this simple protest, just awakened the local government machinery, and they sort of the next day of this protest, the MLA kind of responded, and the road got made. It's as easy, as simple as that. That you just need to get the communities together, and a lot of solutions can happen. We don't need really to go fancy with a lot of our problems, but it's just a matter of 20 people from a village coming together and taking ownership of what their context is. Next. And slowly, we through RTIs, we tried to get out a lot of village funds, and even getting the community used to filing claims, used to going to the court is also a big thing. And even for them, that they can stand in the court and have a say is something. I think that is the biggest achievement of a democracy like ours, where we can, as the smallest of the small person, can go to the court and say what they have to say, and if that person is right, can get the rights of that person. So this is what they also recognize, and they are very adept. And now even working with the government, the local government, the local panchayat is very easy, and even the panchayat receives us very well. This is the last slide, and this is what I would like to end with. And this is, I think, our most biggest achievement as a small village.
Thank you, Shardul. Very yes. So with this, thank you all. These were some great is really happening across multiple domains together, bringing resilient best practices shared were diverse in nature today. On one end, we saw Samirji talk about how as an organization can give a new lease of life, to landholders in rural as well as especially tribal areas. About drones being such a new technology can be so powerful in cases of disaster and medical emergencies, amongst obviously other applications. Ruchi also very importantly pointed out on how youth and kids form a majority of this community, right? And I think we then had obviously Shardul talk about his individual journey, which obviously translated into his practice and further impacted, one community at a time, right? So I think what's there to learn from what Shardul really shared is, one community at a time. I think there is so much of impact that one community can create. I'm sure the ripple effect is there that you can see. So yes, so like I said, this is really so rare to see, and like I said, must be on all over one. If you could share your on this Indian approach or Bharatiya approach, as a key adaptation measure, how can it be mobilized, or how do you think it can be scaled up, through lifestyle, both at individual level as well as community level? So if Ruchi, you could go first, and then maybe Shatu.
Hi, thanks, Namrata, for asking me to say. I think that as Indians, there are a lot of things that we carry through. One is this feeling of a family as well. We always have believed in the system of family, which I think now that I've visited West, I realize that this is a little weak in the other societies. So we should cash on that. So as a culture, we grow together. We don't bring in the values which we have traditionally not agreed with, which is good. And we have always lived with nature alongside. Like, remember, we always had these wadis where we had a house which was surrounded by gardens and fruits. This was so important, not just for us, for feeding our families and for feeding generations that come after us as well, but even to balance, let's say, the insect population or the bee population and and just the whole circular um, what do you say, the bio cycle that we talk about. So this was so important to keep everything in balance, and as long as we followed that lifestyle, I think everything was perfect. When we started moving away from that lifestyle, we started depending more upon the urban and the modern way of living. That's where we started losing the balance. So somewhere we need to make that shift again and agree and accept that rural life is a way to go forward. We should protect our villages, we should protect our forests, and make use of technology, but not at the cost of hampering any of the balance that exists in the nature as of now. Rather, we should use the technologies to protect the environment even more. So the way I said, drone technologies could be used to monitor forests as well, to monitor the rivers, to monitor the lakes, and to even clean it up, for example. So yeah, it's like a good use of technology, which should be enhanced and promoted.
Yes, thank you, Shadu.
Ma'am, actually, when you were saying, your voice cracked a bit. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was just saying that, just to conclude, how do you see this, the Indian approach or the indigenous knowledge that we have, the Bharatiya approach? How do you think we can mobilize this, or, scale this up, in the future? So any thoughts on that?
So I completely believe and I enjoy the process of working with communities because of the work that we are doing in our village. Because when they realize, the surrounding villages, when they realize that this particular village is doing so and so and getting their rights in place and going to court, a lot of the surrounding villages started joining us. Not only that, even we sort of started getting work in other places like Gadchiroli, in Nandurbar, to do similar kind of work. So I completely believe in a bottoms-up approach where you start from a community that you relate to, and then you're growing up through example. So that is my approach, and I think that was the Indian approach all the time. You first look at your context, your family, and do what you believe in, and if people relate to it, then they will join you. And that's what I think. It takes time. I mean, yeah, because we didn't have any goal per se, then we kept doing it. our 6th year that we are doing something like this. So it took time, but we enjoyed the process thoroughly.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, so with that, we would like to thank all our esteemed panelists for today's discussion and for taking out the time to share their views and also their best practices of building resilient communities through lifestyle. This webinar was curated by the Institute of Sustainability and Development Studies. Special thanks to Nidhi for coordinating this event entirely right from coordinating with. Special mention to Yojak and Dr. Gajanan Dangeji for spearheading the entire C20 working group LiFE for Environment, and Asmita Joshi for her active participation in the sub-theme, which is Habitat for Life and Life, and Director of ISDS, which is our trust MKSS, which is the Maharishi Karve Shri Shikshan Samstha. Yes, so I would just like to say, stay tuned for our upcoming events. Like I said, this was the first in the series that we plan to, have such events for the working group over the next couple of months. So yes, thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, sure.